Folks, I think I found the one thing that'll scare Verstappen into making mistakes. Track limits. I mean, I was going to be doing another joke about track limits, but Ted Kravitz stole it. What do we all think about them, folks? I want to hear your comments down below, by the way, and I'll respond to every single one of them. In total, throughout both qualifying sessions at the Red Bull Ring, both the sprint sprint shootout and the regular qualifying session, there were a total of 62 lap times that were deleted. 62! That's nearly the entire race distance at the Red Bull Ring. You could Thanos it. Okay, some of them were on slow laps and the lap times were deleted, but still, I want to actually bring that to your attention. But what is a track limit? Well, track limits were a little bit vague for the longest time, but when the new FIA stewards came in, they managed to actually make it quite clear, something that we fans could actually get behind. In short, don't go over the white line that makes the boundary of the track. If you have no tyres on the right side of the white line, that's a lap time deleted. I think that's pretty easy, and most of the drivers accepted it. But now you're starting to get, after this Grand Prix, that Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc are saying, maybe we could make the white lines a little wider, perhaps? Make them extra thick? Or maybe have track limits being the red and white cuts. I'm sorry, Max. I'm sorry, but you can't have your cake and eat it. You're already having a really good season. It's very, very clear. Yes, our relationship with the FIA stewards hasn't been great over the last few years, but I think this is one thing that we can all agree upon. Don't go over the white line. There you go. So who had the most lap times deleted? Well, I can give you the results of the first ever Austrian Track Limits Grand Prix. So we start off in last place with Valtteri Bottas with 1 lap time deleted, followed by Piastri and Russell also with 1 lap. And then we have Sargent, Alonso, Stroll, Magnussen, De Vries and Hulkenberg with only 2. Then Tsunoda, Ocon, Zhou at 3, Perez and Gasly had 4, and then we have Albon in 5th position with 5 lap times deleted. Then it's tied for 2nd between Hamilton, Sainz and Norris with 6, and Max Verstappen won this too. Thought at least one other driver would have been able to win something, but you might have noticed I didn't say one name. Yes, good old Charles Leclerc, he had no lap times deleted. He's the golden boy of the Austrian Grand Prix. What a good boy, Charles. Good boy. Most of these lap times were deleted from the likes of turn 10. And playing that track on F1 23, where I try and do a 107% lap time, you can check it out up top, it's very difficult. That turn 10 is very hard to get right if you want to be quick and not get your lap time deleted. So I can sort of sympathize with it, but then I also can't, because I was going on Reddit and I saw a lap time from Fernando Alonso from 2003. And I remember that time, 20 years ago. But then I completely forgot the fact that track limits weren't really an issue. You go around the entire lap and the majority of it is just white line and grass or gravel trap. And then the only time where you do have very big track limits is at turn 1, and back then you just ignored it. Alonso just goes over it, doesn't get penalized for it, because that was back in the day when track limits weren't really an issue. It was just mostly gravel traps and grass. I'd completely forgotten that the Red Bull Ring, or no, the A1 Ring at the time, was like that. I've just been skewed. I've been so used to seeing those red, white and red stripes everywhere and all of these runoffs and stuff. And I'm thinking, do we really need these anymore? Because the sausage curbs have now become a problem. They're car breakers. They can actually break drivers back sometimes. It's just getting a bit of a problem that no one really knows what to do when it comes to track limits and track implementations to stop them. Just go back to gravel traps, but maybe do what they did at Spa last year, and instead of just having typical gravel traps where they're really, really deep and you can get beached, just have them at a reduced level. They're shallower almost. So shallow gravel traps are enough to make you think, maybe I shouldn't go over there, and not just go, and instead you might just, stick to the track. Because running off the track, it may look cool on TV, but it is kind of cheating and it's going against the boundaries of the actual track. But yes, I fully understand that the reason why we have so many of these tarmac runoffs is mainly that the drivers can then get themselves back in the race. We can still have more drivers completing races, and that means no one goes out because of an unlucky mistake. But surely at the top of motorsport, you should be aware that, flagrantly going over the boundaries and track limits like that should be penalized in some way. So a shallow gravel trap is the best solution because it's quite clear about what you're expected not to do, don't go there. And then the white line for when you do have curbs is like, don't go over that. Two simple things. Don't go over the white line, and if you go in the gravel trap, you're done. Or at the very least, you're going to lose a lot of time. And also get some gravel in your side pods and maybe your tires and other things. Or if these track designers are completely mesmerized with track runoffs, just do what they did at Paul Ricard. Yeah, that track doesn't really have that many fans, but one of the things I really did like from that track was the fact that it had those stripes of high grip tarmac, and you just go over those and it slows you down, and in some cases if you skid it off, it wrecks your tires. So maybe just have track runoffs where you have really, really high grip tarmac and roads where you basically go over it and you can maybe damage your tires, and that you have to then go very carefully from now on. You may just not want to go over there, but also at the same time, it's safe. It slows cars down. It also is something that doesn't take long to clean up and causes safety cars almost nowadays red flags. That might be a good solution. It's one of the few things that Paul Ricard did well. Maybe don't do it in a way and a configuration that maybe hurts your eyes or something like that, but that could be one thing. But 62 track limit violations, my goodness. And Max Verstappen winning that too. Although then again, you could probably guess that he won it because he complained the most about them, but I feel like track limits need to be there. It's some sense of regulation, because if we're going to have these big amounts of runoff that is basically tarmac, you may as well just have a clear boundary and don't just completely run over it. That's just ridiculous. I feel like this is absolutely fair, and maybe the idea of widening the white line, okay, that's fine, but in which direction? Are you going to be bringing it 5 centimeters inwards or 5 centimeters outwards? Because that's going to require a lot of infrastructure to add the extra tarmac, and or maybe with the curbs if you're lucky, but that would take a lot of redevelopment for most tracks, and they probably can't afford it, some of them. But yeah, seeing that Alonso lap time from 2003, it just makes me think maybe the Red Bull Ring should go back to that configuration, so that means we don't have these moments of track limits and drivers losing their positions, but in a way that it was actually kind of exciting. We had all of those upsets with Russell and Perez out, and then our boy Lando doing really well, but I'm going to save that for my winners and losers video on Monday, so I'll talk about that another time. But it did cause a lot of upsets, it did cause a lot of interest and hype, so it's a very tricky relationship, isn't it? With track limits and trying to make things exciting, but realistically, that seems to be one of the few things that could really scare the pants off of Max Verstappen. Well, at least at the moment, but upgrades from other teams, eh? They're getting closer, but I'll save that for Monday, folks. But comment down below what you think of the track limits and whether Red Bull doesn't want to implement them because they might lose their accolade for being the shortest and fastest lap, at least in terms of lap time shortness.